back, ladies and gents. So we are back on the GTR Xu1.
Finally back to it, as Mick said. So back onto this skirt. I'm attacking that. I'm just starting to put a bit of weld back into it. We had to join this back up, so I've had to go right through, make new pieces. I'm pretty sure way back I showed how we put a section in, dollied all this up, squared it all up, and now I just want to come back to where I was and finish welding this so it sits in nice and true. We dollied this up and got it somewhere towards its shape back then, and now we'll go ahead and finish all this and get it to sit up, to sit the profile the same as the right hand side, so we can get it right and then just drop a guard on and give us a pretty good idea of where we're at for gaps. Then we want to put the rad support on. It's just temporarily bolted on there at the moment. Inner and outer, we've got it clamped together, as you can see. And then once we get a rough idea of the squareness of this engine bay, then we'll go ahead and probably give it a couple of spot welds, sit some panels on, and if we're somewhere near true at the moment, we can then sort of work with our doors and come forward. But we don't want to play with the doors anymore at the moment, because if we do, we'll run into trouble when we get to the engine bay. It'll be out of square, not sitting correct for gaps, heights, widths, the whole deal. So that's why we're now back up into here, into this skirt. Michael's is not too bad, I don't think.
Yeah, mine looks pretty good. It's not too bad.
This one was ugly, so it needed to be sorted. A little bit of rust, old accident damage, but we'll get it back to where it needs to be, like I said, so it can get this guard on.
These little spot welds, you can see a couple of them. I've gone through a little tiny bit with the drill. You can just see there, so I'm going to weld all them up and clean them up really nicely, and then underneath as well, so you can't tell that it has been drilled through, and that's pretty important. And then also around the outside, so basically I'm just dressing it up as well, getting my side ready. Pops should be finished his, and then I'll finish my side, and then we'll be able to sit some guards on and make a little bit of progress. Okay, so this part now is all finished, and we've basically finished dressing it up, and it's so important to get this really nice at this stage of the game. Hey, Pops?
Yeah, 100%. You got to get that profile back into that, just like I'm trying to play with this one at the moment to get it right.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, thanks. Funny how I always seem to get the ugly bits.
Hey, someone's got to do it.
Hey mate, trust me, speed bumps coming for you somewhere on that side.
Yeah, I hope. I hope not.
It's coming.
Don't jinx me. So yeah, where was I?
Yeah.
So you can see, I'll get up a little bit closer. Now that's all clean. Now I'm going to weld them up. Now the reason why it's so important is because when I go to fit that new guard on, I want it to sit on flush, like perfectly. I don't want any high spots. So if you have a high spot, it's going to actually bring the guard up a couple of mil here and there. So when you want to fit your bonnet up correctly, it can sort of interfere with all that as well. But that's about it. So I'll continue on and get that welded up. And Pops is just having a little bit of a, what would you call it, Pops?
Not a thing. Everything's fine over here. Nothing over here that anyone needs to see, okay?
So, is it coming out?
Yeah, no, it'll come up sweet. I just filled all that up, got it nice and straight again. That'll be a quick sand off.
So you welded it from the other side by the looks of that?
Yep, correct. And I'll give that a quick buff off for a sand down in the end. That'll come up a treat.
You want to explain a little bit too about dollying, hammer and dolly?
Yeah. Now,
and,
guys, I'll just grab a hammer. And this particular one, that's what we call a wheel arch hammer, really, or profile hammer for round body lines, especially up in around the lip of a wheel arch. You can get up and hook it in a bit.
Yep.
But when you tend to want a dolly, like when you're finished off, like you might have just want to, once that's ground off, it might have a tiny high spot here or there, and I'll just give it a tap down. But the trick to the dollying side of it is, don't get carried away and just keep slapping away at it, because where you weld, the work becomes hardened. You've got to be careful.
Yeah, it'll crack.
It will crack.
Yep.
So the trick to it all is in the fit to start with, the welding, the way you weld it. Don't overcook it. Be very careful. As I always say, too much heat's a bad thing.
Yep.
You just got to have it correct. And then when it sits right and you're finished and you buff it up, you might have, like I say, a tiny little high spot, just a gentle and very gentle. And when you're dollying, watch what it's doing. A gentle tap. Don't just sit there and just start to slap into it, because you will do more damage. You'll go backwards.
Yeah,
but
you'll stretch the steel.
You'll stretch the steel, and you're in some deep trouble. You know, a whole world of pain. Then you've got to start off and rework.
Yeah, that's it.
But don't overwork it. As I say, it'll become hardened if you do. And you remember, you're only playing with like a mill, not even in places. It's like paper, and that's the way you got to treat it. You got to have kid gloves. It's a job that take your time.
Yep, gentle.
You'll have a good result. But if you don't, you'll have some issues.
Yeah, once that's stretched, and then you need to do some heat shrinks and stuff, and it can turn into a bit of a, well, let's just say, as John would say, turn to custard.
Yeah, and real sloppy custard.
Oh shit!
But this here, guys, as you can see now, that had a lot to fill up there.
Yeah.
It was very thin. It had been all worked before.
Yep.
And it had a go at, quite a good go at. But now that's nice and strong and solid again. I'll clean that up. I'll finish a little bit of a weld up the top there, and it'll sit where it's supposed to. And like Mick said, we're trying to do that profile so the guard, when it goes on, sits down nicely.
Yeah.
Because these inner guards on these particular cars, they actually have to spot to the guard. They're not a bolt-on thing, they're a spot weld thing. So you've got to have a really nice fit. So when that's welded, there's no pull in it, up and down.
Yep.
And that's why now, spend a bit of time to make it easier in the end. So yeah, but just remember, don't get carried away with that hammer and dolly.
Okay, so I've just finished dressing up the old inner skirt, as you guys can see now. Now, a little bit of an old trick. We try to use not a brand new pad in these areas because we're trying to save as much meat on this steel. Like, we don't want to remove too much. If you're removing too much, it gets a bit thin. So we just want to take that minimal off the top, dress it up, feather it up, make it really good. And then you can see now it's got that original, that nice shape back into it. So when I sit it back on, it should fit really nicely. And then when we fit the bonnet on, there's going to be no ups and downs when it's all welded and like, obviously we need it to all go and fit together. I think that's 120 I've got on there. So anyway, so what we're thinking is we've got this genuine guard, and Pops, we've just been talking about it. Hey, we're probably keen to keep this guard.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we can keep the original guard. If you can save it, that'd be great. Yeah, so
I'm gonna remove all the paint off it and see how much bog and stuff's underneath, and just make sure that it's a good guard.
But and hopefully it's not a badly stressed guard through having an accident somewhere along the line.
Yeah, and it's not. I think it looks pretty good. So anyway, so that's what I'm doing today. Gonna suss this guard out. How's it going, Pops? Coming up all right?
Yeah, it's starting to now. This was pretty well destroyed, all this. It was a real mess, and there's not a lot left of the steel. I've got to be super careful because it's been repaired or it's had a kind of a repair back in the past, and they're just hooked into it that much, and they've ground away so much meat and made it thin. This lip was virtually non-existent. It was pretty much destroyed. So I've got that up a little bit along there, but I haven't finished there yet. I'll shape that a little bit more. And then when I get this profile line along the top, you've got to have the right curve to it, because how they roll on these skirts, they drop away as they go, and then they roll into the engine bay slightly like that. So you've got to have that profile right for the guard to sit on. So once I've got the general shape, it's coming back to it now, then I'll dolly that up prior to welding, get that really fairly good. This piece here will have to go because, as you can see, there's nothing left of that. It's had so much butchery over the years. So I'll chop that little bit out, go again, weld a new bit in, and then all this here, what's left of it, I'll repair it up, plug all these holes up bit by bit very carefully, and then the plan is, guys, in the end, to dress that completely up so that guard will sit on there with a good base to sit on again, because we've got to spot weld that guard back onto that skirt, so it's got to have good support. And you want the shape really nice, because when the guard goes on, that's its foundation to sit on. And if it's like a house, if it's crooked, the guard's going to sit crooked.
So it looks nearly as good as mine.
Oh, it looked better than that one. That's done by an amateur.
Another thing too, when we work together, it's definitely it's a team shit, like like what would you call it, Pops?
It's a team.
It's a team. So if I let my side down, then Pops his side's better than mine. So, or if his side's not as good as mine, then we go to fit the front on, and it's all over the place. So we've got to work as good as each other on each side.
Yep. And as I said, seems a bit weird and strange how I always seem to get the challenge bits. As you'll notice, guys, this one was kind of a bit of a mess, and that was a breeze over there.
Mate, I'm whinging.
I'm not whinging, I'm just stating the fact.
Come on. Now, mate.
True. Mick's right. You're saying whatever we do, we work as a team because you have to.
Yeah, you do. You have to, hey?
Yeah, and we're pretty lucky. We work in pretty good. And like he can kind of see what I can see, so you just get on with it and make it happen. But this front section of this car, until these skirts are really where we need them to be at, guys, we can't really even attempt to get a guard on.
Now, Pops, what about time frame? Now,
well,
thinkingly, how much time, if you were to look at that and go, how many days is this going to take you?
It's a hard thing because it's the old story. When you're trying to rework old damage and you get in there and you get rid of all that body filler, because honestly, this skirt, it had a good half an inch of body filler all over it.
Yeah.
Now I've got rid of all that down in here. That's back to bare steel. And now I want to do the same up here and right through the top of it. So to answer that question, it is nearly impossible. You can have a guesstimation, but to give you an accurate quote, you can't, because like I say, you open the tin of worms by going into these old repairs. Look, if you wanted it, you know, not the best repair in the world, you come up with a pretty good time frame. But when you get into this sort of work where it's going back to all steel, it takes time. Sometimes you can fabricate up a bit that's a little bit quicker than trying to use and repair what you've got. But because of the shape of this, by the time if you were to chop that out right along there and weld that whole thing back in, it's one of those jobs, you're almost better off to go the way I'm going to attack this.
Yep.
Because if that's welded nice and carefully, you'll plug those up pretty good and dress it up. But to go and chop that out and do a seam weld right along there, it's a fairly long run. It can be done, but I believe to try and keep as much original stuff as you can.
I can see the shape's really starting to look good with that now.
It's starting to get the shape, the profile, the height, and as I say, with these particular ones, they run and then they tend to want to roll off into the engine bay like that.
Yeah.
So you've got to have that nice.
And it's not pulling in to the left, from my view. It's actually starting to go to the right where it needs to go.
So what I'll do as we progress on, when you see it, when it's all welded up completely and dressed up, then you'll get a really good idea of the whole look of it in the profile. It should look pretty identical to the one Michael's got there once it's finished. So the plan is, like we said, we can drop those guards on those skirts, both sides, set them on, give them a clamp on, see where they're at, throw the bonnet on, see what we're like for squareness, do some diagonal measurements, and we'll see how high it is, and then we can check sort of towards the back of our door gaps. And if we're pretty happy with the front, then we'll play with our doors again.
How far away is it, Pops? It's looking better now.
Pretty good.
What's the hand telling you?
Pretty good. That'll just need a little bit of a touch up now with a bit of probably 240 paper.
Dress it up.
Dress it up a little bit, and that'll prime over, and then a rub, and that'll be pretty good. That little bit just there. But that had a where it was joined. That actual line there, that strength line that's in it, where they'd cut it through there before, when it was put back on it, it actually had a step in it. It went like that. So I've got it all back up to its right height.
So it wasn't true.
No, it was not good at all actually, and it was just covered with body filler both sides.
Yep.
To hide it all. And where it joined here, they butt joined it, but it wasn't actually a butt join. It was like staggered almost across itself. But now I've butt joined all that up, so, and it's nice and solid again.
How does it feel? Nice and straight, or?
Yeah, it's pretty good. That'll prime now. A couple of coats of primer and a decent rub. That'll be pretty good. And it's starting to look, the shape of it now, the profile is really starting to come up.
Yeah, nice.
I'm pretty happy with that. It's coming up good.
He's pretty happy. Sounds good. So what's next?
So what I'll do now, I'll go along and I'll start to tidy this up a bit and start to plug up all these holes little by little, come along there, get all that back where it should be. And then when I get down to the very end here, I'll make up a little piece to go in this corner, because there's nothing left. The biggest issue I've had with this is because it's had so much work and rework, and then the steel just starts to go away. There's not much to work with, and you've got to be very careful. But the way I've gone about it, it'll be fine. There'll be enough meat left on that to sustain that repair. But if you ripped into it and you got excited, that'll be gone. It'll be just paper thin.
Okay, so after removing that first layer of paint on there, you can see it's got rid of the orange paint, and you can see here there's a little bit of bog. Not too bad though, it's just had a skim, and it's in pretty good nick, this guard. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll come around this side. Actually, we'll just flip it over and I'll show you what it looks like. Gently, you want to flip that over. You can see it wants sandblasting behind it and a nice clean up. It's got a little bit of surface rust around it. It's not too bad though. It's definitely the way to go to save this guard, being a genuine guard. I'll replace this whole lower section here. It's pretty rusty. You can see down there it just wants replacing. It's actually got holes. The old metal maggots have been into it. Alright, but that's the go today, and unfortunately poor Pops, he's got gout in his knee, so he's just chilling out this morning, having a bit of a rest. So hopefully the gout goes away. All right, well, that's it for today, and some good news. Dad's better. The old gout's disappeared, mate.
Yep, handful of pills, mate. The old Indicid did wonders.
Fixed you up?
Yep, got me going again.
Oh, that's good, hey.
Had a day out, and the old Indicid, like I said, they cured it. They really nail it. I don't get gout much, but it's not a good deal.
Yeah, it's
Bloody painful.
Yeah, no, I've never had it before, so.
So knock off.
Yeah, knock off time.
Do we want to have a look at that guard before we go?
Yeah, all right.
I'll come round.
Come over. So, I just finished removing the bottom half of the guard, the rusty section, and as you can see, now, Dad, do you want to just explain a little bit why you got to try to keep genuine parts?
Well, the thing is, the pressing on them when they're made, they're not exactly the same as in the aftermarket. The aftermarket stuff, some of it's pretty good,
yeah,
and some of it's not so good. But where you can, for the originality side of it, and I don't know, it's a bit of a nostalgic thing. You want to try and keep as much as that original car there as you possibly can. That's the whole trick to it all.
Yeah.
And we only have to, take away what we have to take away. Like if we could have used that whole guard, like without having to play with this, it would have been really good. But unfortunately, that's life in restos. So what we try to do is save as much as we can. And so hence that's why you've chopped this off, Mick, to try and keep the rest of the guard.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's best gone, that piece.
Yeah.
Between the very average repair and the rust in it, it's gone. So get a new bit on there and clean the whole back of that guard up. So what we're going to do, blast all that into
Yeah, just a light blast.
Give her a lick over and clean it up.
Yeah, I'll be pretty careful. I'll probably remove this little section.
Yep.
And we'll replace that.
And you can clean up in behind it while you're in there.
Yeah, actually I'll probably use that again. Yeah, I just want to give it a blast in between those skins.
Yeah, that's a good idea because it will have cancer happening in there for sure.
Yeah.
So just take that
Hopefully
off.
not too much.
No, I just want to clean up. It'll be like, the old usual in between the skins over the years, all the moisture and dirt, and it gets in there and starts to create an issue and then grows.
Yeah.
But that won't be a problem. So have we got another panel, the patch panel for the bottom of that?
Yeah, well I've got this guard here, the rare spares guard, and I tell you what, I was nearly thinking to use it because that rare spares guard, it actually feels heavier than the genuine guard.
So what's it like for fit up?
That front radiator support's a bit of a problem.
Okay.
So anyway, when we get to that, we'll work that out. So
yeah.
You know what it's like aftermarket stuff?
I do, and I don't know these. I don't know where they really originated from, but
yeah.
If that guard's nowhere near going to fit, no, we're not. We'll try and absolutely stick with the original thing.
Yeah.
Just want to finish that skirt, finish where I was playing in there. It's getting there now. Then I can chuck the guard on, see where I'm at with my guard.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm going to go completely non-genuine on my side because previous episodes, what we were dealing with, it was just bits and pieces of original guards.
Yeah.
So we went, no, it's got to go. It was full of bog and it was rubbish. So
cut in half.
Cut in half. So I'm going to throw the non-genuine on and see how it fits up and going to play with it until we get it right.
Yeah, that's it, hey.
Take a couple of days to cruise back into it, but getting the feel of it again. And it's funny when you're on a job and you're stuck right into it, and your mindset's on that job, and you know exactly where you're at. You're in the groove, as they say.
Yeah, concentration, hey.
Yeah, and then you leave it and you come back, especially after 5 months.
Yeah, it's been a bit different.
Trying to remember and get the feel of how the car was.
Yeah.
So once we get back into it, the old the brain fog's just about gone. Yeah, bit by bit, this will just all transform into a front end of a car again.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a little bit of work involved. This radio support's a little bit sketchy, and it's going to be interesting to see when we fit these guards on and the bonnet on and close it all and see what's going on with the gaps.
Yeah, it's always when that bonnet goes on with the gaps and stuff, that's exactly, and when you go to shut it down to see what you've really truly got.
Yeah, and then we fit the doors on. It's one of those jobs, but it is exciting, so I think that's it.
And what do they say? Somebody's got to do it.
All right, Dad, that's it for this one, and let's hope he doesn't get the gout again. It's not a good thing, is it?
Nah, the old Indesit magic stuff, that shit.
Good gear.
Yeah,
That's what we like to hear, mate. Keeps you in business.
handful of them, and hey, no more gout.
All right, mate. Well, that's it for this one. And
All right, thumbs up, and I'll see you later.
And as I say, a little bit in the dark is a long way in the daylight. So it's knock off time. See you later.